Dr. Nora Sykes stood before the audience of alien dignitaries and scientists, her voice steady as she introduced the experiment. The demonstration room hummed with the quiet power of advanced technology, while windows framed the endless darkness of space. This was a routine physics experiment, designed to showcase humanity's mastery over gravitational manipulation, nothing more than a carefully controlled display of quantum gravity waves. But Space Station Astra was known for its surprises. On one side of the room, Ryan Calloway and Meena Patel, two of Nora's human assistants, stood at their posts near the control consoles. Both had performed these tasks dozens of times before. There was no reason to expect anything unusual today. As Nora prepared to activate the gravity wave generator, she offered a reassuring glance to the alien diplomats, all curious to see human ingenuity in action. The system powered on, and the hum of the generator increased. On screen, gravitational waves shimmered into existence, forming delicate ripples in the fabric of spacetime. Nora smiled, everything was going according to plan. Then, it all went wrong. A loud crack split the air, and the equipment trembled violently. Without warning, the gravitational field intensified far beyond what they had calculated, sending objects in the room flying toward the central chamber. Alarms blared. The carefully controlled experiment was now spiraling out of control. Panic spread among the onlookers as they scrambled to secure themselves. "Shut it down!" Nora shouted, rushing to the controls. Ryan's heart raced as he saw a massive piece of equipment topple. It was hurtling directly toward Meena, who stood frozen, eyes wide with fear. Without thinking, Ryan lunged forward. In one fluid motion, he grabbed the machinery, a solid, multi-ton mass of metal, and pushed it away, sending it crashing to the ground harmlessly. For a second, everything stopped. The impossible had just happened. Ryan stared at his hands, stunned. His body hummed with energy, but his mind struggled to grasp what he'd done. The weight of the machinery should have crushed him, yet he had moved it with ease. Nora's fingers flew over the controls, and with a final surge, the generator powered down. The gravitational distortion faded, leaving the room in disarray. She turned to Ryan, her face a mix of astonishment and confusion. The alien dignitaries, too, watched in disbelief. "Ryan," Nora began, her voice low. "How did you do that?" I don't know," Ryan stammered, still catching his breath. "I just reacted." Before they could process what had happened, a new alarm blared, a containment breach in the quantum core. The damage was more severe than they'd realized. "We need to evacuate," Meena shouted, finally breaking out of her stupor. As they rushed to contain the situation, Nora's mind raced with questions. Ryan's impossible feat wasn't just an anomaly. There was something deeper happening, something no one had anticipated. Whatever had just been unleashed, it was only the beginning. The aftermath of the accident had left the research team in a state of shock. Dr. Nora Sykes stood outside the med bay, watching as the medical staff ran a battery of tests on Ryan. Despite his earlier feat of strength, he showed no signs of injury or strain. In fact, his vitals were astonishingly normal, as if nothing had happened. But Nora knew better. The data didn't lie. Inside the lab, the team was analyzing the experiment logs, searching for the cause of the gravitational surge. The incident had been unprecedented. The equipment wasn't supposed to generate fields strong enough to affect organic matter, let alone activate some kind of latent superhuman strength. Ryan's extraordinary reaction to the gravity spike demanded answers. His muscles show no abnormal signs of growth or enhancement, Dr. Calloway, the station's xenobiologist, reported. She was a tall, slender alien from the Threk species, her blue skin and silver eyes reflecting the glow of the holographic monitors. Whatever allowed him to move that machinery wasn't physical conditioning. Then what was it? Nora asked, frustration creeping into her voice. Calloway glanced at the results, frowning. We detected a spike in Ryan's cellular energy output at the moment of the accident. Something in the gravitational field triggered a reaction in his body. I've never seen anything like it. Nora's mind whirred. Could it have been the experiment itself? Was it possible that the quantum manipulation had interacted with Ryan's biology in some unknown way? What about his genetic makeup? Any anomalies? Calloway hesitated. Actually, yes. We found a dormant gene sequence that's unique to humans, but it's never been active, at least not until now. The gravity field somehow triggered it. Nora felt a chill run down her spine. A dormant gene? She had studied xenobiology enough to know how rare such genetic markers were. So you're saying this gene was activated by the experiment? Precisely. It's as if humans have some sort of hidden potential, waiting to be unlocked by the right environmental conditions. Extreme gravity fields, like the one from the accident, might have been the key. As the implications sank in, Nora realized they were on the verge of discovering something monumental. If humans had a dormant gene that could unlock such incredible strength, what else could it do? And why had no one discovered this before? Ryan sat up in the med bay, his brow furrowed as he listened to their conversation. So, what? I'm some kind of freak now? Not a freak, Nora said, stepping closer. But we need to understand what happened to you. This could change everything. Before she could continue, a voice interrupted them from the intercom. Dr. Sykes, you're needed in the conference room immediately. The Alien Council wants a briefing. Nora exchanged a glance with Calloway. The incident hadn't gone unnoticed. The aliens on the station were curious, and perhaps a little nervous. Ryan's display of strength had rattled them. If humans possessed this kind of hidden power, it could disrupt the delicate balance of interspecies relations. As they walked toward the conference room, Nora's mind buzzed with questions. How many other humans had this potential? What would happen if this knowledge got out? And more urgently, how far would some be willing to go to exploit it? Whatever came next, Nora knew one thing: humanity's place in the galaxy was about to change forever. The conference room was silent when Dr. Nora Sykes entered, the tension thick in the air. Around the long table sat representatives from 6 different alien species, their eyes all focused on her. Ryan, still shaken from the med bay, stood just behind her. They both felt the weight of the moment. At the head of the table was Sareth, the Thrall envoy. His species, with their ancient knowledge and history, were the most mysterious in the galaxy. His deep, violet eyes fixed on Nora as she took her seat. We've been briefed on the incident, Sareth began, his voice low and deliberate. But what concerns us is not the accident itself, it's what was revealed because of it. Nora nodded, trying to keep her tone measured. I understand. Ryan's strength was unexpected, but we're investigating the cause. It appears that the gravitational anomaly activated a dormant gene in his DNA, something we had no prior knowledge of. Sareth exchanged a glance with the other alien representatives, some of whom shifted uneasily in their seats. The Zarian ambassador, a tall, insectoid figure with glimmering wings, clicked its mandibles in disapproval. You humans are always full of surprises, the Zarian said, their voice sharp. First, you master quantum gravity. Now, we find out that you have hidden capabilities that could pose a threat to the balance of power. Nora felt her pulse quicken. She had anticipated this reaction, but it didn't make the situation any easier. It wasn't intentional. We didn't know about this potential until today. We have no plans to weaponize it. Perhaps not, Sareth interjected, his calm tone in stark contrast to the rising tension. But history has shown us that unchecked power rarely remains dormant. Your species has already disrupted the galactic order with your technological advancements. This could be the next step in a dangerous direction. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, feeling the eyes of the room on him. He couldn't help but feel like an exhibit, his newfound strength seen as more of a liability than a marvel. "I didn't ask for this," he muttered, but his voice was clear enough to be heard. The Thralln envoy leaned forward. "What if I told you that we've seen this before?" The room went still. Nora's curiosity piqued. "Seen what?" Saratha's gaze deepened, as if recalling an ancient memory. "There was once another species with a similar dormant potential. They, too, discovered it by accident, though not through gravity manipulation. It led to a period of incredible growth, but it also led to their downfall." "Downfall?" Nora repeated. "How?" "They became too powerful, too quickly. It sparked fear among the other species, and soon, war followed. The galaxy united to contain them, but it was too late. They annihilated themselves before the galaxy could intervene. It was a tragedy, one we cannot afford to repeat." Nora exchanged a glance with Ryan. The implications were staggering. "You're saying that humans could follow the same path?" Sarath nodded. "The potential is there. And that's why we must proceed carefully. We will help you understand this power, but under strict conditions." "What kind of conditions?" Ryan asked, his voice edged with suspicion. "We will guide you in unlocking this ability, but you must agree to limit its use. Only under our supervision will you be allowed to explore the depths of this new strength." Nora's mind raced. The Thralln were offering knowledge, but at a price. Would humanity accept these terms, or risk alienating their allies by pursuing this power independently? Before she could respond, the Zarian ambassador clicked again. "And if they refuse? What then?" Saratha's eyes gleamed coldly. "Then we will have no choice but to ensure this potential is never fully realized." Nora felt a chill creep up her spine. Humanity had been thrust into a game far more dangerous than they had anticipated, and the stakes had just risen higher than she could have imagined. The station buzzed with unease after the Alien Council meeting. Whispers of humanity's newfound potential had spread like wildfire, and tensions ran high. Dr. Nora Sykes felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her as she returned to the lab. The Thralln had offered guidance, but their conditions were strict, too strict for some. She knew there were factions within the station that were already plotting their own paths forward, unwilling to bend to alien oversight. Ryan stood beside her, the weight of his transformation evident in his expression. His life had changed in an instant, and now he was the center of a debate that could determine the future of humanity in the galaxy. "What now, Nora? We just let them dictate what we can and can't do?" Nora sighed. "It's not that simple. The Thralln know more than we do, they've seen this kind of power before. If we move too quickly, we could lose control. But if we don't act, others might." As if on cue, the door to the lab slid open, and Meena Patel rushed in, her face pale. "Nora, you need to see this." Meena led them to the observation deck, where a large holographic display showed the station's core. The image zoomed in on a secluded section of the facility. "A rogue faction is attempting to replicate the gravitational anomaly," she explained. "They're using the data from the first accident to try and unlock the same potential in themselves." Nora's heart sank. She had feared this would happen. The thirst for power, unchecked, was already spreading. "Do they have any idea what they're messing with?" "They don't care," Meena replied. "They think they can harness it, use it to their advantage. But the gravitational field they're generating, it's unstable. It could tear the station apart." Ryan clenched his fists, the muscles in his arms rippling with a strength that still felt alien to him. "We can't let this happen. We need to stop them." Nora nodded, her mind racing. "We have to shut down the experiment before it gets out of control. If they trigger the wrong kind of reaction, it could cause a gravitational collapse, something we might not be able to reverse." As they made their way to the unauthorized experiment site, alarms began to blare throughout the station. The rogue faction had activated the field. The gravitational waves were already distorting the structure of the station, causing minor tremors. Bursting into the control room, they found a team of rogue scientists frantically trying to stabilize the field, their faces a mix of determination and fear. "It's too late," one of them shouted. "We can't shut it down." Ryan didn't hesitate. With his newfound strength, he sprinted toward the console and ripped out the main power conduits, his muscles flexing under the strain. The gravitational field flickered and then dissipated, leaving the room in an eerie silence. For a moment, no one moved. Then Nora rushed to check the readings. The field had been neutralized, but the damage was done. Fractures in the station's infrastructure would need immediate repairs. Ryan's breath was heavy, his hands still gripping the torn conduits. "This can't go on like this," he muttered. "People are going to destroy themselves trying to unlock this power." Nora nodded gravely. "We need a solution. Fast." Back in the lab, Nora and her team worked through the night, analyzing the data. They discovered that the dormant gene wasn't just about strength, it was part of an ancient evolutionary adaptation designed to help humanity survive in extreme environments. It could enhance reflexes, cognitive function, and even physical resilience, but only in carefully controlled conditions. As they stared at the data, a transmission interrupted them. A distant human colony, lost for centuries, had sent a signal. It was faint but unmistakable, a message from survivors who had already undergone the transformation. They had unlocked the same abilities long before the experiment on Astra. Nora looked at Ryan and Mina. The galaxy was about to change again, and humanity's true potential was only beginning to reveal itself. "What do we do now?" Mina asked. Nora straightened. "We go to them. They might hold the answers we're looking for. But whatever we do, we have to control this power, before it controls us." Nora's decision was met with silence. The magnitude of what lay before them was overwhelming. A lost colony that had already harnessed the power they were just beginning to understand? If the survivors had learned to control it, perhaps they could offer guidance. But Nora also knew the risk. What if the colony had fallen into chaos or worse? Ryan broke the silence, his voice steady. "We can't stay here, waiting for the next disaster. If we don't act, someone else will try to tap into this power again, and next time, we might not be able to stop them." Mina nodded in agreement. "But how do we reach them? That colony could be light years away, hidden in the outskirts of the galaxy." Nora tapped a few buttons on the control panel, bringing up the coordinates from the signal. "It's far, but not unreachable. We'll need to retrofit one of our ships for deep space travel. And we can't go alone. We'll need allies." Ryan frowned. "You're thinking of the Thraln, aren't you? They're the only ones with experience in controlling powers like these," Nora replied. "We might not trust them fully, but we don't have the luxury of going at this alone. We're dealing with forces that could reshape the galaxy, or destroy it." As the team worked to prepare for their journey, tensions across the station continued to rise. Rogue factions that had once lurked in the shadows now openly questioned the authority of the Council. Rumors swirled about others planning to unlock their dormant abilities without permission. Some saw the emerging power as humanity's birthright, others as a curse that needed to be eradicated. By the time the ship was ready, the station had fractured into opposing camps. Nora could feel the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. If they failed, it wouldn't just be the station at risk, humanity itself could be consumed by its ambition. The day of departure was tense. A small crew had been selected for the mission, including Ryan, Mina, and a few trusted engineers. The Thraln had reluctantly agreed to send a representative to accompany them, a being named Calloway who was rumored to be older than several human civilizations combined. As the ship powered up and lifted off from the station, Nora couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading into the unknown, not just physically, but morally. What kind of people had the lost colony become? What had they done with their power? And what would happen if they didn't like the answers they found? The journey through space was long and quiet. Kalen rarely spoke, spending most of his time meditating in the ship's observation deck. Ryan, who had grown restless after his transformation, spent his time training and studying the limits of his new abilities, pushing his body and mind to their limits. Mina and Nora continued to analyze the signal from the colony, hoping to uncover more details before they arrived. Weeks passed before they reached the outer rim of the galaxy. The colony's signal had grown stronger, guiding them toward a barren planet orbiting a dying star. As they approached, the surface of the planet came into view, a sprawling network of cities, once magnificent, now crumbling under the weight of time. They landed near the source of the signal, stepping out into the cold, thin atmosphere. The city was eerily quiet, with only the faint hum of ancient technology echoing through the streets. As they ventured deeper into the city, they were met by figures clad in armor, their eyes glowing faintly with the same power Ryan had begun to harness. The colony's survivors. The leader, a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "You're from Astra," she said, her voice a mix of curiosity and suspicion. "We've been waiting for you." Nora swallowed, unsure of how to respond. "We received your signal. We came to learn. To understand how you control the power." The woman smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "Control? That's what you think we've done?" Ryan stepped forward, his muscles tensing. "You've harnessed the same abilities we've discovered. If we don't learn to control it, our people could destroy themselves." The woman shook her head. "We didn't control it. It controlled us." She gestured to the city around them. "This was once a thriving civilization, but the power, it corrupts. It amplifies our desires, our fears. It turned us against one another, and now, we're the last of our kind." Nora's heart sank. "Then why did you send the signal?" "Because we saw your future," the woman replied. "We knew that if you found this power, you would face the same fate we did. We sent the signal as a warning. But now that you're here..." She paused, her eyes glowing brighter. "I see that it's too late for warnings. The power is already within you." Ryan glanced at Nora, his face grim. "What do we do now?" The woman took a step closer. "You can't destroy the power. But you can choose how you use it. You must teach your people to master it, not through fear, but through understanding. If you don't, the galaxy will fall into chaos, as ours did." Nora nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. "We'll do whatever it takes to prevent that." The woman smiled again, this time with a hint of warmth. "Then perhaps there's hope for your people, after all." As they prepared to leave the colony, Nora realized that the new frontier wasn't just about mastering a new power. It was about mastering themselves, understanding their potential, their limits, and their responsibility to the galaxy. As the ship lifted off, heading back toward Astra, Nora knew that the journey was far from over. The future was uncertain, and humanity's place in the galaxy was still being written. But they had taken the first step toward ensuring it would be a future worth fighting for. And for the first time in a long while, Nora felt hope.